Macy's has all of your Grill Master essentials for Father's Day. Stop by to get our hand-trimmed chicken breast and certified Angus beef patties that are ready to grill, so Dad can have his favorite dinner. Make sure to browse our bakery to find the perfect no-work Father's Day treat with our decadent peanut butter bars or famous donuts. Right now, you can get boneless beef ribeye steaks for $12.99 per pound at Macy's. Shop these Father's Day essentials in-store or online at Macys.com through June 18th. Macy's, happy shopping!
Welcome to the Intrazone, a show about the Microsoft 365 Intelligent Intranet. I'm Mark Cashman, here with my Microsoft 365 Copilot. Psst, Copilot, that's your cue. Well, the robot might be a little busy today. Today, while I'm recording, is the March 16th announcement of Microsoft 365 Copilot, so I'm going to give it a little break, and then it's just going to be me, Han Solo, for a few moments before we get to our interview, and I'll have gathered maybe a few cheat notes with a little help from our quiet AI assistant. On today's episode, we'll hear from Raj Jain, who is a Principal Product Manager at Microsoft, and we're going to dig into all things topical about Viva Topics. Specifically, we're going to focus on the role of Viva Topics within Viva Engage, those community discussions, questions, and announcement posts, which equates to two great Viva apps integrating and beating that better together drum. The real goal of this integration is to give you and your message recipients more information at your fingertips, their fingertips, like a built-in knowledge management system that you can reference to highlight the right pieces in line to balance and refine the length of your communication without sacrificing the depth of how you pay forward all of that knowledge to each person that reads your comm. We're going to get into the tech side of topics in Engage with my interview with Raj. So I thought up front that we'd share just a few thoughts around topics in terms of where you might have already experienced topics, if you've heard about it already, or if you've started to reference it actually in production or in your use using topics. And certainly with Viva Engage, there have been a lot of recent announcements. We had a recent episode all about some of the new innovation coming from Viva Engage with Answers, with Leadership Corner, and more. But when we focus in on what is the role of topics, and specifically we're going to get into topics in Engage, but really what is the role of topics inside your internal knowledge management superpower system, especially if you're using these technologies that can only grow. We started with topics in SharePoint pages so that you could hashtag and reference a topic with the notion of like a wiki page or something you would do on the internet, hover over it, learn more, see a topic card, dive into the topic page, learn about the files, the sites, the people, and the highlighted information so you know the gist of what something was, especially things like project names or acronyms. This really then grew into Microsoft Teams and Outlook so that in your communications, when you're talking with somebody, you could reference, like I sometimes do internally here at Microsoft, I reference the topic of the Intrazone. If I'm inviting a guest, I will hashtag the Intrazone. And then if they want to, they can hover over that, learn more about who the co-hosts are, who's our producer, some of the aspects of the show, of what we cover, and they can dive into as much as they want. And it's right there just under the hashtag on hover. But for me, it's as if I was just typing, we hope to have you as a guest on the Intrazone. And I do that in chats and email, and it's really easy. And it was very easy to establish that individual topic. But of course, topics can be derived from all of your content. You can refine it. AI will do a lot of work to find what seems to be the top level topics. You can manage it like you would have and still hopefully do managing your metadata and build out a really rich repository of topics. Again, especially those things that you or somebody who's thinking about the broader corpus of topics might think would be beneficial to the broader set of people who may not know all projects, project code names, or acronyms. So it's a really great muscle to build, and the team has been hard at work to make sure that it's at your fingertips where you're working, especially in those communication systems like Outlook and Teams. Especially if somebody sends you one in an Outlook thread. Imagine, it's multiple people have replied all of those scenarios. And there might be multiple topics that would be referenced within the email thread. There's a really nice feature in Outlook that summarizes all of the topics that were mentioned in the entire email thread. And you can jump to them or just hover over them in the collection. You can see all within a pretty small view. So it's a really great way to both for you to pay forward some details that you don't want to write out all the time. You can just reference the topic. But also if you come across something that you don't know or want to learn more about, you can do that right where you're working. Dive into it. When you're done, you're backing out of the topic card, which is easy. You just dismiss it. Or if you're on the topic page, you return to where you were. That is essentially the role of topics in the context of Microsoft 365. But in just a minute, we're going to get into the specific role of Viva Topics in Viva Engage. And we're going to hear from Raj, who was our main product manager, focused on enabling both what it is going to be by design and then helping implement it as we roll it out into production. And with that, let us move into our interview with Raj Jain, who is a principal product manager on the Viva Engage and Answers team. All right, now is the time when we dig a little bit under the covers, behind the scenes, into the service, and really behind the design of how we're building these products. And one of the features that we're focusing on this month is all about bringing the experience of topics in Viva Engage. And there's a lot behind that because, of course, there's a lot behind how we even got to Viva Engage. So I'm pleased to welcome to the Intrazone Raj Jain, who is a principal product manager on the Viva Engage team, the Answers team, the Yammer team. I know you do a lot, Raj. Maybe you can clarify who you are and what you're working on these days.
Thank you, Mark. Excited to be here. Yes. I actually do a lot, as you described, but honestly speaking, I'm part of the Viva plus Yammer team. I've been at Microsoft for a while, and I joined the team about 7 months ago, and I've been focusing on the integration of Viva Topics with the uppercase T into our Yammer product now, Viva Engage, and also a new experience that we just introduced called Answers in Viva. So yeah, I'm excited to share the journey of how we got here and what we're doing.
With a little joke, we're going to engage and you're going to give answers based on my questions, and it'll be a great topic for the Intrazone. So let's maybe start with the brand. And the brand has a little behind it, and it's, something that we just recently announced in terms of Yammer, the brand, moving and becoming Viva Engage. And with what you're focused on, there's a little bit behind that. Do you mind sharing a little bit of the journey of the brand? What does that mean for Viva Engage, and maybe some of the things of how it ties into, broader Viva and kind of the feature set that carries forward or is new?
First of all, Yammer is being a loved brand and an experience, and we definitely want to make sure that the ethos of Yammer continues. So first thing that we're doing is Yammer is changing to Viva Engage. And the word engage, as far as I can tell, is more about focusing on how employees engage. Yammer and now Viva Engage is a great social platform. We see a lot of organizations using it for employee exchange, conversations, questions, polls, praises, and whatnot. What we are extending, this is more of an extension and including other experiences such as Storyline, which is another new area of focus that we are bringing, which allows you to share one story with the organization using more media like the videos and images, etc. And then we recently announced this experience of knowledge sharing using this experience called Answers in Viva. So Engage is essentially broadening its reach and creating more opportunities for us to give interfaces for employees to engage. So this is more around the engagement experience.
With Engage being a part of the broader Microsoft Viva experience platform, one thing not only is this new brand, but before we get into the specific feature this particular month, do you mind just sharing a little bit of the design of what carries forward with Yammer going forward? And maybe, you mentioned a few of the new features, how we're approaching that future of Engage within Microsoft Viva, which has a lot of the experience now inside Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, that's a great question. Imagine the world where when you go to Teams, you will see the Viva Engage app. Once you click on it, you will essentially launch into the Viva Engage experience. You will see communities, you will see storyline, you will see all the experiences that you would get in Yammer. And now we are also introducing experiences like answers to show up. And the thinking behind that was mostly for making sure that we bring together a more of a holistic experience for the employees to engage. Like if they want to ask a question in the community, they can do that. If they want to share a story through storylines, they can do that. They don't have to have multiple applications. And if they have a question that they want to ask because they are in the middle of doing some research, there's this experience of answers in Viva where one can also introduce, ask a question and get an answer from the peers, particularly for Yammer. And this is, I think, where we start diving a little bit more into the details. So Yammer has been using this topics with a lowercase t. As part of us being a more holistic across the M365 suite, we are now integrating Viva Topics with an uppercase T. Viva Topics, as we know, is the knowledge area. This has been around for a couple of years now. And the idea was essentially is to make sure that organizations can utilize the benefit of Viva Topics. And we basically are feeling that there should be a ability for these Viva Topics to be universal, whether it is in Yammer, whether it's in Answers in Viva, whether it is in Teams, whether it's in Outlook. They all mean the same thing. So there are no different definitions of topics. So that's one key area that we have focused on.
I think the clarity of, what was a Yammer feature, Yammer, of course, being around for quite some time. I even think some of what you mentioned a little bit earlier, just carrying forward all the value of Yammer. I remember a number of years ago where we introduced the better ability to post a video and have that play in line within the chat. Now we, with storylines, have added the capability to actually record the video and have that directly into now Viva Engage. But it's really interesting, and I think it's that mindful approach to how you've designed that lowercase topics. Of course, mindful now that we have uppercase topics, and that topics are meant to be pervasive, whether it's, you are in an email, like you mentioned, on a SharePoint site. And it is an important thing if people do learn how they can add topics to their answers or to their questions or to their chats. The value is you're always going to have that next layer of discovery. Can you talk a little bit just more around bringing forward the design and making that more consistent experience no matter what entry point people are experiencing a topic? And maybe just a little bit extra of what is the experience of working with a topic within Viva Engage now?
Yeah, definitely. One thing that you mentioned, I want to just briefly go back. So topics has always been an organizational element when we used it in Yammer. So organizing your conversations by associating a topic was the purpose, or was the function of the topics. Viva Topics is more geared towards knowledge. And this is where it becomes important for us to say, it's not just organizing, but it is also now about connecting people to the conversations and also connecting relevant documents, relevant conversations that might be associated with this topic. So we are now building what we call as a knowledge repository for these Viva Topics. So imagine there is a topic called Viva Engage. It is just not now about organizing around Viva Engage. It is about saying, if I have a question about, hey, what is Viva Engage? There will be people who are associates, such as myself. And if somebody asked a question, it would get routed to me, or they can find that I'm one of the people they might already know, and they can reach out to me to ask anything about Viva Engage. So the idea is about creating that connection of the question or the conversation to a knowledge area called topics, and then being able to find related information around it, such as people, documents, etc. So that's the journey as we are thinking about evolving. The other question that you asked, Mark, was, hey, how are we integrating this experience? So for Yammer users, or now I should keep on saying Engage users, the experience does not change. Similar to how one would go ahead and add topics, they would see the same topic picker. Instead of seeing the the lowercase topics, they would see the uppercase topics. And as part of the journey, we are trying to make sure that any of the Yammer topics that were in use are available to be used. We are not asking our customers to recreate these topics. We are essentially just making them Viva topics. Same thing for answers in Viva. In the flow of asking question, one can basically look for a topic, select it, they can add more than one, and hit post. Whenever you post a question in answers in Viva, the magic that happens is the moment you add that topic, we are then able to identify the people who are associated with the topic and present the question to them so that they can help answer the question that was asked. So that's where I was talking about the people to conversation to the topic connection that is coming alive with this integration.
I think that's hugely valuable. I know a lot of the positioning around Yammer in the past was you might not know who to ask a question to. So go to a community where you can at least identify from the community's title, what it is they focus on, and somebody in there probably is going to be the right subject matter expert. But to take that to the next level, either you can self-discover because on a topic card, you get a lot of information, or off of that, if it's a question, it'll get routed to those right people, no matter where you are. You don't have to go to the community itself. So I think the value of people, when they start to see it and start to use it, is just that save you time, help you with routing, and automate some of that can be challenging. Just finding the right person or the right content is often a very time-consuming thing.
Absolutely. I think you described it better than I would, Mark. The idea of doing this was essentially saving time, and especially when we think about the world that we live in, where we are in a hybrid mode, where we are now we don't have the luxury, I would say, to just walk down the hallway and have somebody who you can just ask. So we need to have the ability to break down these barriers and get access to this tacit knowledge more freely. And you're right that communities was the way to go, to basically, in the hope that you might find a subject matter expert. But by doing topics and the integration with the question and answers experience, we are essentially democratizing it and make it available for it to be asked in any forum. And we are thinking about how we can make this even more seamless across other Viva Engage experiences. We are thinking about how we'll extend it to storyline so that you can now attach a topic for your storyline post. We are also going to think about how we can extend it to other experiences and make it more easily accessible.
Raj, I am glad that I found you as a topic expert about topics in Engage, and of course, having the history of Yammer and the value of, a lot of ways that you and your team are planning, building, designing, and of course, always open to feedback. I think a lot of this has evolved, especially under the Viva brand, is what do our customers want? What are they trying to do? And I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I appreciate it wasn't really hard for me to find you in the nature of, who is the right person to have on the IntraZone. So thank you for your time.
Of course, it's a pleasure. And I would say one of the things that is my accountability and why I'm passionate about this area is it's a hard area if you think about is how do you identify people if you don't know them personally to find what is the right answer or who can help you give a hand when you are asking a question or who can point you in that direction. And this is where we call as the people or expert matching to topics. And that is the power that really is the driving force of really breaking down the barriers and making knowledge more available and democratizing the process of asking questions and knowledge sharing. I'm truly excited for this conversation. Thank you, Mark, for finding me. I also want to tip my hat to you. Your IntraZone is one of the more popular podcasts, and I subscribe to it. And I'm excited to listen to more of your future episodes.
All right, I hope you are now a lot more fluent on not only what is Viva Topics, but what is Viva Topics in Viva Engage. Again, a great Better Together story, and I hope you will see in reviewing it, or if you're lucky, hopefully you will be using it very soon. Definitely check out the Viva Topics Adoption Center at adoption.microsoft.com/viva/topics to dive into all the goodness. With that, let us transition over to talk about events. There are a lot of great events, a couple of big ones both in the US and in the EU. And the first one that I wanted to highlight starts us in the EU in Paris, France. It's the Modern Workplace Conference 2023. This is happening on March 27th through the 29th. And it looks to be a wonderful conference, pretty broad spectrum, of course, taking modern work and the modern workplace will cover everything around Microsoft 365, the Power Platform. I think I saw some things that were both for IT and developers, and a focus, of course, on the business decision makers. So there's a lot of great content. If you're in Paris, France, I would highly encourage you to go to the Modern Workplace Conference 2023. And if you're not in Paris, great excuse to hop on over and grab a baguette and a croissant and join in the fun. The next one that I wanted to highlight is in May, and it is the Microsoft 365 conference, which is May 2nd through the 4th in Las Vegas, Nevada at the MGM Grand Hotel. And with this one, there's a lot that's coming from Microsoft, from the community, from MVPs, specifically from Microsoft. We've got a number of keynotes. Of course, there's going to be the opening keynote with Jeff Teeper, and I'm proud to say and pleased to say, Jeff's boss is also joining us. That's Rajesh Jha, who is the Executive Vice President, Microsoft Experiences and Devices. And it's really interesting. We've got a lot of great things that Rajesh is planning. Of course, a lot of things that Jeff and his team are planning. We have another low-code, no-code Power Platform keynote with Charles Lamanna. There's also going to be a Microsoft Viva keynote with Kurt Konigsbauer. And to wrap it all up, we've got a nice adoption keynote with Caruana Gatimu and Dan Holm. The breadth of everything else is just a wonderful depth of training, networking, sessions, booth, evening events. It really is shaping up to look like a great event. There's going to be a lot of different product leaders and teams, my teammates from across the product portfolio from Microsoft. All of the wonderful MVPs and community will be there, both presenting and engaging. And we hope to see you also in Vegas, May 2nd through the 4th at the Microsoft 365 conference. Next, May 13th in Warsaw, Poland, is Collab Days Poland. This is, again, picking up the mantle from what we used to know as SharePoint Saturdays. Collab Days is really carrying forward that value of having regionally focused events delivered in person, usually across the breadth of one day. And it's really great to see Collab Days Poland in Warsaw, May 13th. Now, the next one, kind of keeping beyond the US walls, is the Power Automate and Power Apps Developer Bootcamp Automation Summit 2023. I was hoping to do that in one breath. That's May 19th through the 20th in London, Paddington. You can expect a lot of information and depth, true depth, about Power Automate, so get your flow brain ready, and Power Apps, get your forms brain ready, really for the developer. This is really to go deep in how you can bring a lot of customization and extensibility and connectors and all the goodness around how to build and deploy and work with Power Automate, Power Apps at the depth of what developers need. Now, a little bit later, couple days, in fact, May 22nd through the 24th in Dusseldorf Fair, Germany, is the European Collaboration Summit. This is a pretty sizable event. Several thousand people expected to be there. We've got a number of keynotes with Vesa Juvonen for developers, Lori Pottmeyer, all about teams, Dan Holm kicking things into Microsoft Viva, and I'll bet a lot of information around Viva Engage, which is Dan's focus. Steven Siciliano from the Power Platform team will be there, and Puna Kaufman to round it out to give you a breadth of what Microsoft offers in her specialty. The event on whole is a very large event. Of course, not only will there be Microsoft speakers, there are MVPs and community leads. The event team is a really wonderful team that always puts on a really well-run, well-managed, but also a great experience if you go to their event. head on out to Dusseldorf Fair, Germany. That's May 22nd to the 24th, European Collaboration Summit. And the last thing that I wanted to mention for events is a newly announced, at least a date, for Microsoft Build 2023. And the date is May 23rd to the 25th. That's May 23rd to the 25th, 2023. Just go to build.microsoft.com and register today. It's a hybrid event, so there is a global digital experience and an in-person experience in Seattle. This event is for developers by developers. There will be a Satya Nadella keynote, and currently now, if you go to the site, there's a nice welcome video from Scott Hanselman that navigates you through what to expect around Build 2023. So register today if you're a developer, or if you're developer adjacent, or if you're just curious in what's the opportunity for how you can extend a lot of the value and differentiation of the platform that we offer across a lot of different technologies. Microsoft Build is the place to be to see how you can extend your experience and to extend our product portfolio. There's always a great lineup of events, but if there's an event that you're running or that you've heard of that I didn't cover or don't know about, and you want to have highlighted on the InterZone, please drop me and Chris a nice note. You don't have to tell us too much about the event, the name and a link, and we'll take it from there. We'd love to include everything that first-party events, third-party events, things that are happening outside the United States, around the world, and of course to be inclusive as much as possible for anything relevant for Microsoft 365, for the Power Platform, and hey, we'll even throw things out there for the Azure team and developers and IT. We're not shy. We love to highlight events because we know the true value of being at an event, if you can, if it's in your area, is to really get the nice depth of training, get your questions answered, and to network with folks that have some similarity of what you do day to day and certainly can have those depth of technical conversations. Thank you to our guest, Raj Jain, for being on the show and for giving us a fresh look at the latest Viva Engage innovation coming from its brethren, Viva Topics. We encourage you to check out our show page for links to all of what was discussed today and more. Go to aka.ms/theinterzone. Send us your questions and feedback for the SharePoint teams, for the Viva teams, for any teams you have questions for. You can reach us via email at theinterzone@microsoft.com or via Twitter at SharePoint, at Microsoft 365, at mcashman, and at cmcnulty2000. And a little hint, the Microsoft Viva Twitter handle is now live too, so try that, at Microsoft Viva. Take a moment to rate, review, and tell all your friends about the show. Follow the show wherever you get your favorite tech podcast. We thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Mark Cashman, and this has been The InterZone, a show about the Microsoft 365 knowledgeably managed intelligent intranet.
After investing billions to light up our network, T-Mobile is America's largest 5G network. Plus, right now, you can switch, keep your phone, and we'll pay it off up to $800. See how you can save on every plan versus Verizon and AT&T at T-Mobile.com/across America.
Up to 4 lines via virtual prepaid card. Allow 15 days. Qualifying unlocked device credit service ported 90+ states with device and eligible carrier and timely redemption required. Card has no cash access and expires in 6 months.